just look at that guy and go, that guy, I'm going to raise him, or that guy, I'm not giving him chips. I'm just going to fold. The young guys these days, honestly, they're kind of soft.
The mother of all poker festivals, the pilgrimage that people from around the world make to Las Vegas to play in the World Series every year.
To me, growing the game of poker is like my primary mission. You think 1,500 is a lot of money, but I'll be honest with you, it's actually a pretty cheap lesson.
I think it's going to streamline people signing up for tournaments, which is going to make it better and faster for everybody.
I kind of feel like the cash games have gotten worse during the World Series. We've got a pretty good group here locally that play. I'm anti-solver, anti-charts.
Gamble up, take the risk, roll the dice. Strategy and guts gonna change your life. Poker chips and parlays, the games are set. Adam and ODB, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Welcome everybody to episode 2 of the Gamble Up podcast. I'm your host, Dave Schwartz, alongside producer Roscoe P. Coltrane.
A highly neurotic, brilliant businessman, seriously overweight, and he takes the fat shot.
A fat shot. And Mr. David Baker. David in Las Vegas, how are you, sir?
What is up? I'm excited to tape and talk about World Series of Poker and everything Gamble Up wants to talk about. I'm in the middle of 2 golf trips pre-World Series, so excited just to chop it up.
Awesome. I'm jealous. You're going on the Savage Invitational this week. You're heading to Pinehurst to play number 2, one of the great golf courses in the world. Pretty excited about the golf trip, are you? Yeah,
Pinehurst number 2, where Bryson hit the infamous bunker shot last year to beat Rory in the U.S. Open, and this has been on the schedule for over a year. For those who don't know, I'm sure most of you don't, but Matt Savage, the great tournament director, World Poker Tour tournament director, and just great guy, has puts together a golf tournament every year. This is the 30th anniversary, and so we picked a special place, which is Pinehurst. We're going to play Pinehurst number 2, one of the rounds, Pinehurst number 8, Pinehurst number 10. And yeah, I'm pretty excited. Golf game's pretty good. Hopefully the body holds up, and we'll be able to compete. Can't really compete with all those players because a lot of them have artificial handicaps, and my handicap's pretty spot on. So, but we'll go out there and we'll have fun and we'll compete. There's 68 people this year, and it's fun. It's right before the World Series, and just kind of get your mind right, get a lot of fresh air, get some walking sun, all that good stuff. So excited for that. A lot of gambling. Love gambling on the golf course. Nothing more than standing over a chip or a putt that there's a lot of money on.
Indeed. And the great thing about that tournament is it's tons of poker players, tons of gambling. It's right before the World Series, so everybody's getting excited for the trip out to Vegas and getting their gamble on, but a little R&R before. But some legendary stories. I've been lucky enough to be on at that tournament a few years. One of them was amazing. I think back to the one at Pebble Beach where we all were lucky enough to play Pebble, and I think it was Mike Sexton's last year there. And I don't know if you remember, but we were on the back patio. I think it was at Poppy Hills, and it was hanging over the 18th green. And we're all a bunch of degenerate gamblers after the round, sitting in the clubhouse, exchanging hundreds or flying everywhere. And somebody had got an idea on the back porch because there's a path, and then downhill to the 18th green, we were lobbing balls. It had to one bounce off the pavement and closest to the pin for 10 grand. So Sexton's there, he's bouncing on I can't remember who it was who was gambling with them, but it was so much fun. It's such a great group of guys. And like you said, getting ready here for the World Series of Poker. Everybody's getting in the mood, but I'm sure you'll have a lot of fun. The World Series is what we're here to talk about. We got a lot to get to, a few other things too, but a little over a week away, obviously 10 days or so, to the mother of all poker festivals, the pilgrimage that people from around the world make to Las Vegas to play in the World Series every year. It'll be interesting to see what happens this year. I know we talked about it previously, but obviously with the different difficulty getting in and out of the U.S., well, a little bit for some people, it might be events might be down a little bit. Who knows? We'll see what happens. Crypto's made a little bit of a bounce back, so that's probably going to help as well. But David, I want to talk to a little bit about you because you play a heavy schedule every year at the World Series of Poker. You're there. You live in Vegas now. You play cash games. It always I always am interested by a poker player's approach to the World Series, because if you're just strictly looking to maximize how much money you can make, you play in some of the highest mixed games there at the Aria, 300, 600, 200, 400, whatever you guys are playing. Surely your expectation in one of those games, especially during the World Series, when there's some casual players jumping into that big game, is higher than if you're playing $1,000 buy-in no limit hold'em tournament. And I think to Daniel Negreanu and Phil Hellmuth and all these people who are, bracelet hunting more than anything, because that's their chosen, approach. They want to win bracelets. That's what they have fun doing. That's their enjoyment out of the game, versus somebody who's trying to maximize and win as much money as they can. David, what's your approach sort of typically to this?
I've gone years where I've only played tournaments, and I've gone years where I've tried to juggle both. And I find that I have way more success in the tournaments when I just focus strictly on tournaments. Also, I feel like kind of nowadays, what's kind of been going on in the cash game scene with the privatization of cash games, and also just more people in town, I kind of feel like the cash games have gotten worse during the World Series. We've got a pretty good group here locally that play. The games are pretty good. There's always like one or two drop-ins. I mean, we're in Las Vegas, so there's always people coming from East Coast, Arizona, Colorado, Louisiana, or out, for guys trips, or just come out to play poker with us for a week or whatever. I find that the games are really kind of better at that point than they are when all the pros are in town. But I think that if you get too tied up in trying to do cash and tournaments, you end up kind of short selling yourself on both. You're always kind of thinking what's going on in the other location rather than just worrying about where you are. So it's really tough. Like when you're playing 300, 600 to get up and go play the early levels of a $1,500 RAS tournament, where, third place may be what you expect to win or lose in a day in the cash game. But at the end of the day, you're still looking at, your max win in a cash game can be high, or your max loss can be high, but you're still trying to just win like a bet an hour or whatever it is that people are targeting for their win loss. So I just find that for me, if I focus on tournaments, it's best for me. I also I love the glory of the World Series. I mean, I know that it's kind of posh, or I don't know, it's just kind of taboo to kind of admit that you like chasing that stuff, but I do. I mean, and I think a lot of us do. I think that the World Series has kind of even made a little renaissance with the last few years. A lot of the bigger guys have kind of made more of a commitment to chase bracelets and to play the World Series. I mean, you see guys like Brian Rask and Scott Seaver and Nick Schulman and Josh Aryeh and all these guys have focused more on the tournaments than cash. And I think it's made for a more healthy, better World Series. So I'm excited to be in there and battle with those guys. And also, more importantly, just battle with the recreational players and having fun, meeting people. And, one thing that I really do well, I think, is just kind of adjust to my settings. And I can have just as much fun playing in the Salute to Warriors as I can playing in a $10,000 stud event.
When you look at the schedule, I know that when I do, and I'm down there to play, I always look to the fun events. I'm not going to play a full schedule ever, so I like to play the games that I have fun in. And I think one of the games that I enjoy the most is No Limit Deuce. And I know that that's a fun game for a lot of poker players, but not a huge tournament. There isn't 700 people in it or anything, even the low limit one, but a lot of fun. So, but what events do you look forward to? I'm guessing the tag team's a lot of fun as well. What events do you look forward to, David, when you look at the schedule?
Well, the tag team's not really one for me because there's always other stuff. I think it usually falls during the PPC as well, so it kind of takes my focus off of that. I usually just try to find somebody cool to play with and just kind of let them do their thing. It's crazy. I don't think I've played a hand in that tournament in the last 8 years. I always find somebody and they bust me out in the first hour or two. I usually you get us started and I'll come in play a little while, and then go play the PPC or something, and they're usually bust by the time I do that. But my favorite tournaments are the mixed ones. I love the 9 game. I like the 8 game. Obviously, I enjoy the PPC. I don't really know. I like them all. I'm not a big fan of just the one winner game. I mean the split pot 1 game tournaments. Like, I don't really play 08. I don't play Stud 8 that much. Those are tournaments that I'll kind of avoid. I do like the smaller no limits. I really do get excited to play like Billionaire Maker and 777 Mystery Millions. I do like those on the no limit side. And then I do like No Limit Deuce. I love the Badoogie. Badoogi's my favorite game. Actually, funny enough, I like some of the games that people don't like. I love Raz and I love Limit Hold'em. So it's crazy because a lot of people play those tournaments because they're either they're chasing bracelets or they're chasing fantasy points or whatever. I actually really look forward to those games. Another tournament I really love is the Big Bet Mix. That tournament's actually a lot harder than people give it credit for. It's but I really do like it because people play crazy and they don't really know all the games, and you can build big stacks early, and then it gets super deep late. So you're kind of playing like super deep stack, big bet mix, and the chips kind of condense usually to a lot of like pretty good skilled players. So I find that one pretty fun. But yeah, that's kind of what I look forward to. But I'm more of a get up and see what's playing that day and go on in and play. Just play each day.
Would you say the skill gap in Badoogie is much larger than No Limit Hold'em, for instance, or PLO, like the skill gap between the best players in a game like Badoogie?
I don't know if the skill gap between the best players and the medium players, but I definitely think there's a huge gap between the players who are drawing dead. In No Limit Hold'em, everybody kind of has some idea of some things that they're doing, but they're just making some fundamental mistakes in Badoogie. But the thing that I like about Badoogie is it's a fun game. There's a lot of talking. There's bluffing. There's cool things. I'll tell you a fun story. A couple years ago, I was playing the tournament, and it was the first year they ran it. And I'm playing at a table, and it's me and Chino, and Danny Tang comes to the table. He doesn't know the rules. He doesn't understand. He has no idea what's going on, but he just wanted to play. And so Chino and I are explaining the game, and he's literally like coming up to me after he plays hands, and he's walking over and he's asking me questions, and I'm giving him tips and I'm talking to him through it. And then that whole day I was just having fun. Like, to me, growing the game of poker is like my primary mission. A lot of the things that I've done in poker have just been to try to build the game because I love it. Big fan of the game, and I just wanted to get better, and I like these mixed games growing. So helping Danny was just kind of came as second nature. And he ended up going on to finish 8th. And I think he finished 4th. I think I finished 8th, and I think he finished 4th. And I helped him all of day 1, and we talked a little bit that night afterwards, and then he went in day 2 and did well, and it was fun. That was a very memorable experience for me.
Adam, didn't MJ catch the Badoogie?
I was going to tell that story too. My old broadcasting partner MJ cashed the Badoogie, and I didn't have any idea how to play it. And he's a nit too, which probably doesn't really help him at all either. But and there's all kinds of great stories like that where, especially at the World Series, because you have so many people coming into town, they want to take shots in tournaments. Oh, what's today? It's the deuce to 7 triple draw. Oh, how do you play that? You'll get a lot of that, and some of the games like triple draw are fun. Like, you can jump in, and if you've played poker and you've played some form of low ball, you kind of have a you're like you said, you're probably drawing dead to win, but you're going to have some fun and you're going to make some hands here and there. So yeah, you encourage people that are coming to Vegas to give it a shot. And plus, if you want to, find out about a game, you can go play the small cash games at the Horseshoe or wherever. They're going to have especially, the day of that tournament, they're going to have a cash game or a satellite or something where you can kind of get a feel for it and have a little bit of fun with that.
But I will say that a lot of people ask me, how do I get into mix, and how can they get into mix and things like that. And I do suggest that you play the 1500 mix events. I mean, the mixed events, not necessarily mixed like having multiple events, but Badoogie and Raz and Stud and Limit Hold'em, all those games, because honestly, you're thinking that you're drawing dead, but if you're good at poker, once you kind of figure out the rules, if you're just observant, you can kind of plod your way through. Just play tight early. But the main way that I learned was I literally just started playing those events. You think 1500 is a lot of money, but I'll be honest with you, it's actually a pretty cheap lesson. You will not see this many hands. You can't get a straight Raz game, in basically anywhere of any small limits. So you're able to just sit and watch, and you might have John Monette at the table. You might have an amateur. You might have a mid-stakes player, and just watch how people play, watch how they respond. Well, look at the hands they turn over, think about what they did, and then just think, why did they do that? That makes sense. Why did they do that? That doesn't make sense. And you can kind of piece it together, and you're not really at that big of a disadvantage if you understand the rules. I mean, obviously you've got to at least know what the rules are, but it's a great chance for you to learn. I played horse in 2010. I played the 3K horse. I played the 1500 horse. I kind of learned a little bit, and then I got in the 3K horse in 2010. And I was at a table with Ivy for all of day 2 and all of day 3. And I just literally just watched him, and I would just see like what he did, and then down, why did he do that? And it just kind of clicked, and it just kind of made sense, like watching what would happen. And we ended up final tabling. He got second. And anyway, it's the best way to learn. And you think it's expensive, but it's really not, because right now, if you want to play with decent players, you got to play 150, 300, 300, 600. Like, and how many hands of Raz are you really getting there? When you play in the first level of the Raz, you're able to get a lot of hands. I mean, they give you 25 or 30, or I don't even know what they give you now for chips, but they give you a lot of chips. You're playing 200, 400 limit with 40,000 or 30,000 in chips. So you're able to see a lot of hands, and just play super tight. Play super tight early. It's not a big deal. You're not giving up a lot of equity, and just watch what players are doing at the table, and you can kind of figure it out. I mean, most of you guys are, if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably a reasonable poker player. So you're probably able to figure it out a lot better than you give yourself credit for.
Yeah, and then so play events, absolutely. And then the other one is Poker Go subscription, right? You can go back and watch archived final tables of all the different disciplines that you want, or you can go watch the 50K and watch how some of the great players, and not only that, the commentators breaking it down too, right? So you have some great commentary, you have some top players playing great hands to watch and learn as well. So that's another option for you to learn. And the other thing I wanted to ask you about, David, is, for players coming to Las Vegas to play in the World Series of Poker, they've got, maybe they have 10 grand put aside. They're going to take a shot in some events, but maybe also they want to, see if they can find some backing. And now we have these staking sites where you can go on there, put your package up for sale, put your markup what you think you deserve and your results, and maybe you might get some stakes. But is there another way can you get into communities out there that are looking to stake people in Vegas during the World Series?
Yeah, I would definitely say it's not for the fresh on the scene, no results type people, but I would definitely check out Josh Aria's site, Poker Stake. You can post on there, and look, you don't have to play for markup. If you know that you're not really at the top level, if you're not really plus EV, but you're neutral, and you're going to try hard and you're a decent player, put it on there. Like, people, you don't realize like the amount of experience you gain and the knowledge that you get to being able to play more events. That is worth it. That is more than any makeup that you can ever achieve at this point in your career. If you're the type of player that doesn't have the backing to be able to play these events, then find ways in. But I will say one thing that I do find that this generation does that I don't really think is that great is they are selling for some of the smaller events, and they're selling at small markups, and they're good players. Look, try to keep as much of the smaller events as you can, unless you have a deal with people and you're trying to respect that they're taking pieces of you in some bigger events, so you give them the option at some smaller events. I've done that my entire career. I've always taken care of people who've been willing to take shots on me with bigger events. I'll give them some of the smaller. These sites at markup for a $300 tournament or a $1,500 tournament, if you've got a reasonable bankroll, play those, because those are the highest EV events, and those are the chances where you have a chance to change your landscape. You picking up $10, $20 in markup, it's not worth it. So I would say take more shots and sell off to more of the bigger things. I think that's the best way for you to do it. And don't underestimate the knowledge that you gain by playing these events. These events really, they're very important to your future. All the success that I've had, it's all because I played a lot of events early on, and I got that experience, and there wasn't a one event where I busted where I didn't take something away from it. Just being in there, knowing how my body reacts, knowing how, identifying breaks, things I wanted to do on breaks, identifying things that made me successful, just up and around, watching people and seeing what they did and how they melted down, watching people and seeing how they excelled in certain parts of the tournaments. Just be aware of what's going on. You don't have to have your head down in your phone and be, solemn. Have conversations with people and enjoy yourself.
Yeah, great advice. All right, so a bit of news coming out of the World Series this week in the last little while. One of them is we are moving to the World Series of Poker Plus app. I can't remember that. What was the name of the app before that was used? I can't remember.
It was Bravo.
Nobody loved
Bravo Live, yeah. I think. Yeah.
Right. So now we've gone to World Series of Poker Plus. All players are going to have to download this app. I think you have to get verified or something once right at the beginning. But then this is amazing because you're going to be able to buy in on your phone immediately and get sent to a table, and you're going to be able to follow the action. You don't have to look up at the TV. Oh, I can't find a TV to see what level it is and what the average chip stack is and where I am. It's going to have everything. World Series of Poker Plus app. It's also, you're going to be able to buy in, and there's no credit card fees. Our buddy Terrence Chan bought in to the Limit Hold'em this week, and from Canada up here, and he didn't get charged any fees. It was just the fat fee. So that's awesome to hear. I think it's going to streamline people signing up for tournaments, which is going to make it better and faster for everybody, easier to get into tournaments and rebuy and do all the different things. So make sure if you're going to the World Series, that you download the World Series of Poker Plus app, kick it around a little bit, take it for a test drive and see what's in there. So you're not trying to figure it out the day of, but that's a big improvement. Dave, are you excited about that?
Yeah, I was a big proponent of I think it was TBIC with the Bravo Live, trying to tell everybody deposit in there, and it made it a lot easier, but you still had to deal with the kiosks and all that stuff. This is great. You just register on your phone, and it tells you where to go. And yeah, I'm excited about that. I will be down there before the start of event 1, and I'll be depositing a little money in there, and then just be depositing throughout the series. I try to do like a few lump deposits and go from there. I'm not really sure if this affects payouts or not. Hopefully, when I was at World Series Europe, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago or something, when you cashed, it would just go straight on there. So I don't know if that's the case with this one, but hopefully we'll get to that stage where your money's just automatically in there. So you could actually just deposit and then just kind of play off your winnings and things. That would be great. But regardless, this is going to be a major improvement. I've heard nothing but positive feedback about it. Also, with the credit card thing, even if you don't get a chance to get in there and deposit cash early on, you can use the credit card for the first couple events, and then as the windows slow down, you can stop in and deposit cash or wire money in or do whatever you whatever's good for you. Personally, I like to just deposit. So credit cards don't get too out of hand.
And then the other thing that came out this week was some clarification around some of the rules. And I'll read directly from the rule book. This is regarding phones and coaching, because I think, last year in the final tables, we've had some situations with people running hands and solvers and guys walking over to the rail, not to mention any names, but and also within the tournament, people like sitting at the table, pulling up pile silver, and somebody will take a picture of it and send it to social media and all hell breaks loose. But so from the rule book, once participants have reached the final 3 tables in any tournament, all approved electronic devices must be removed. An announcement will be made to participants once they have reached the final 3 tables to remove all such electronic devices. So once down to 3 tables, no phones. Players must access their devices again, players may access their devices again during breaks or after being eliminated. During streamed events, the World Series of Poker reserves the right to remove all participants' electronic devices. Participants will only be allowed to have their devices back during breaks or after elimination. Another rule change bans coaching from within the tournament room. The rule reads, no coaching from anywhere within the tournament room will be allowed. This includes viewing of the tournament stream and usage of any electronic assistance. Nice to get some clarification. I know there was a lot of gray areas in the last year or two with some of this stuff, David. I'm happy that this has been clarified by the World Series.
Yeah, I mean, I'm anti-solver, anti-charts. I'm anti all that stuff. So I'm an old school guy. I'm not really big on relaying information, using that information, all that good stuff. I'm not really sure what that means. You can't coach. Like, I mean, if I'm watching the final table, are you allowed to come up to me? Are you allowed to come up to me? And I'm like, I don't know, just give you advice on kind of what's going on or what I'm seeing, or I'm not allowed to say anything. I'm not allowed to say, I mean, what is deemed coaching? Keep your head up, sit up straight. Is that coaching? Because I mean, I think that's an important thing. I can see that people are not necessarily, at their best sometimes there. And is that coaching? Am I able to say, something like, the anti-structure next level is a lot better. Maybe you want to tighten up for this one. I don't know. Is that coaching? What do they mean coaching? So I'm not really sure. Am I able to say anything at all? I don't know. I'm not really sure how you legislate that. I mean, are you just going to have somebody on the road going, you told him to sit up, that's coaching? I don't know. That's kind of a weird use of the word. But I do definitely like the no electronics, no charts, no helpers allowed. So I'm not really sure what that coaching necessarily means.
I'm guessing it probably just means direct discussion about hands or strategy in hands. I would be surprised if it included, sit up straight or any of that other stuff. But I guess we'll see. That's a good question to probably.
I mean, am I able to say, Adam Swartz seems to be opening pretty light. Make sure you're 3-betting. You should be 3-betting him a little more. It seemed, did you notice that in the 8-6 offsuit and the cutoff? Am I able to say that? Is that coaching? I'm not really sure. Like, I would
say that's coaching. Yeah, I would bet. If I had to bet, I would say that's coaching.
How do they police your personal conversations on the rail?
If there's no live stream, I mean, are they gonna? So it would be the word of your rail. The rail says, "Oh, he told him that." I don't know, that one seems kind of a little fishy. The no coaching, but I do actually like the no using information gathered from live stream. Basically, meaning you can't use electronic devices on the rail in any way whatsoever. But I feel like if you're actually just observing the action and relaying action, I don't know. That seems a little cloudy to me, just because he said, she said type. I don't like you, or your rail doesn't like me, type thing. I don't know. That one could be a little weird. But all in all, I do like the strides that they're making. Anything to make the game more pure, where you're playing against, the table of that's there. I'm obviously for.
Nice, good. Yeah, I guess we'll see how that clarifies out in the first week or two of the World Series. I'm sure there'll be some stuff, like you say, that'll get more defined on where the line is. All right, let's move it on to the fun part of the start of the World Series of Poker, and that is the World Series of Poker 25K Fantasy Draft that is happening on May 27th at 1 p.m. Again, you can stream that on Poker Go, as well as if you go over to Poker Go, if you're not a member and you want to watch World Series of Poker, it's a great resource because they have a large streaming schedule that's been posted. If you want to follow along the World Series from outside of Las Vegas, you can watch final tables and all kinds of stuff. And of course, the main event is always the showpiece of the year for Poker Go. Yeah, so the World Series of Poker Fantasy Draft, the 25K, run by Daniel and others, is going to be on May 27th. David, you're going to have a team, I'm sure, with Mark, and maybe talk a little bit about how you approach this draft every year, because one of the problems always with this draft, especially at the 25K level, and we'll talk about your $500 league as well, but when you're going to the 25K and you're going to bid on players, there's a lot of sort of information that some people have that others might not have, and that's about who's coming to the World Series, who's going to play a full schedule, is somebody having a baby, is he not coming for the first 3 weeks, and maybe he didn't tell anybody, and somebody goes out and bids for him. So there's this disparity of information that tends to happen. So I'm curious on how serious you take the 25K. Do you go do a bunch of research and spend all kinds of time asking people when they're playing, or do you just kind of jump in there and hope for the best?
No, I mean, I do a lot of research. I have Mark's on my team. I got a couple other members, and we've been sending out texts and receiving texts for months. We've been talking about people. I have a notepad that every time I think of somebody throughout the year that I think could be a sleeper, I put them on there so I don't forget them. Yeah, I take it very seriously. And the cool thing about it is this is just the 25K draft has become such a fixture amongst the community that now people kind of take pride in getting drafted and trying to get drafted if you're on the cusp. We're seeing a lot of people tweet out their schedules, texting owners and telling them, hey, I'm going to be playing, because it's kind of a big deal. If you get drafted on a team, it opens up your opportunity to play more events. Let's say, for instance, Adam, you had a 150K schedule on the docket, and that only included 2 or 3 10Ks. But I know you're a good player, and you come to me and you go to Daniel and you go to some of the other owners that AJ or whoever. There's a lot of people that you can basically know who's drafting teams, and you can tell them, it's like, hey, I'm playing a pretty good schedule this year. If I get drafted, I might try to sell some 10Ks, and maybe I'll be like, talk to my partners, hey, Adam's a really good mix game player, like let's try to draft him, and then we can each put up 10% of his 10K schedule, and now all of a sudden you're playing 10 events or 8 events that you weren't playing before. So it's kind of an important part of the World Series. People get into more events because they get drafted. So I know there's a lot of people out there that are trying to get drafted. So yeah, I mean, I'm constantly combing Twitter. We're exchanging ideas. My co-owners. One thing I try to do is I try to draft people that I like and like to root for. It's always kind of weird, when you draft somebody that you don't really care for and you're sweating them, but you're kind of anti-sweating them. And, I mean, I like most people, so it's not that hard for me, but I don't like everybody. And, so it's kind of weird, in that regard, but at the same time, like how much are you prioritizing like this guy, versus schedule versus skill level? It's kind of like you want them all to align. You want to like them, you want them to have good skill, and you want them to have a big schedule. But the reality is that, a lot of guys only fall into 1 or 2 of those departments. Some people play big schedules, but they're not as good. And some people are really good, but they're not playing as big a schedule. So how do you really rank, what they're playing versus their ability to get there? Because, it doesn't matter how good you are. If you're only playing 10 tournaments, you're not for me. Like Ben Lamb, perfect example. A guy I think is an absolute crusher in poker. He's a great tournament player. When he's at my table, I don't really like it. He's just a really good player. But I also fully aware that he's probably going to play 10 to 12 tournaments. And yeah, they're going to be some of the biggest tournaments, but they're also going to be versus the best competition. They're also going to be, it's high variance. And it's also hard to really reach a ceiling when it comes to achieving points. It's hard to get those 200-300 point seasons. If you're playing 10 or 12 events, you've basically got to win a couple. So those aren't the kind of guys. For me personally, I'd rather have a guy who's a little less skillful but playing a full schedule. Now, ultimately, it's great if I can find a guy who I think is good, who's playing a full schedule, and maybe he's not as well known. So that's kind of where I try to focus. I try to balance. Also kind of balancing your strategy if you have some secret guys, some guys that kind of maybe other guys aren't thinking about. Maybe you can afford to pay for volume with a Jeremy Osmus, a Scott Seaver, an Alex Livingston, a Yuri, a Benny, those kind of guys. Obviously, Deeb and Negreanu fit into that as well. But you can't really do that if you don't really know some of the secret guys. When I say secret guys, they're not necessarily there's these secret group of guys. They might just be a secret to you. You have to have a few guys that that you feel comfortable with. They can be no limit guys, they can be mixed guys, they can be whatever, but you have to have guys that you think that a lot of other people aren't going to be targeting, that you might be able to get at the end of the draft for a couple bucks. You can't just be scrambling and just throw out some random name and hope that he's playing just because he was drafted last year. That's kind of a recipe for disaster, because you can't necessarily look back and see this guy scored 100 points, but you didn't realize that the composition of that was one field bonus and one min cash, or he min cashed a bunch of things that, don't really have the high ceilings.
When you mentioned drafting players you don't like, a funny story from last year. So our friend Scott Wilson asked me to help him out with the 25K team. He wanted a team last year. So we went in and put a team in, and we did some research and looked around, and there was somebody who we ended up buying. And so Scott's playing in a tournament the next day, and this player that we bought is at the table, and this player that we bought doesn't know that Scott's at the table. He's sitting there, and he just starts trashing it, I can't believe these fucking idiots took us in the draft, and what were they thinking? I'm totally bummed. I don't even want to play anymore. And Scott's just sitting there listening to this guy that they drafted trash, and it was pretty funny. But anyway, we had a good laugh.
I remember
about
that story, and it sounds like you don't want to really say the name. I know exactly who you're talking about, but I think that one kind of was kind of goes back to what I talked about. He had kind of talked to one of the big players there that is willing to take pieces and high rollers and things like that, and he had kind of basically set up, hey, draft me, and because he's a super good player, I know exactly who you're talking about, but maybe wanted some help in some bigger events to play in some big events. And then when you and drafted him, maybe you guys hadn't talked to him about maybe playing 25Ks and 50Ks and the 100K and things like that. So I think he was kind of a little upset because he had an opportunity. If you get drafted by the right person and you don't have the bankroll, it does open up some big events. I mean, like PPC, I've played it every year. I'm probably going to play it this year, but I might not. But if I get drafted by a team that's like, hey, you're playing the 50K, we'll put up, whatever we need to for the piece, then okay, well, that opens up an extra window for me. Maybe they say, maybe they want to put me in a PLO tournament or something like that. So it is kind of important to people who get drafted. They do want to get drafted by guys that can take pieces of them in big events. And I know who you're talking about. I remember you tweeting that story, and yeah, it was some guys, like we say, are more valuable to some guys than others. And he probably was a little more valuable to, the big name player because he was going to get to play a few more events than he might not have played otherwise. But yeah, I remember him telling you guys telling that story about him, and it's funny. It's great. It also kind of creates fun dynamics, like people that maybe you weren't necessarily friendly with before. You get them and they're like excited to be on your team, and now you're starting to exchange texts with them, and sometimes you can create a group chat with some of the members. Some guys don't want to be involved in that, and that's fine. That's their prerogative. But I always offer pieces of my team to the players I draft, and they will kind of want to be in there and they want to battle together, and it's like, oh, this guy, deep in tournament, I want to get, and it creates like, strange bedfellows, kind of, guys that you wouldn't think know each other or like each other, kind of become friends and root for each other. And it's fun.
Yeah. Who was great with that was Anthony Zeno. We drafted Anthony Zeno, and he's like, I can't wait to, bank a bunch of events for you guys. He was totally in the team mentality, and it was neat. Like you said, you got to meet some people and expand your social skill or your social circle a little bit, which is always good for sure. All right. So, this is the 10th anniversary of the ODB $500, 25. Well, it's not the 25K, the $500 fantasy league, based on the auction values from the 25K. So, David, this is the 10th anniversary. You've got some announcements to make. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, so this is the 10th anniversary of my league. It's $500 to enter. It's open to everybody. I'll be posting all the rules and everything on Twitter. But basically, it's this. It's DFS for World Series of Poker. But you draft one team, and it lasts you for the entire 7 weeks. The salaries are used, the same salaries that are used by the Daniel Negreanu League, the 25K. You put together team of 8 players, and whoever's team gets the most gets the lion's share of the money. This year we have a title sponsor. It's Survivor Sweat. Survivor Sweat is the largest proxy service for the Circa Survivor contest. Last year it was 14 million. This year I'm guessing their guarantee is going to be about 20 million. But when you play the Circa contest, you have to be in the state of Nevada to enter every single week. But you can register and play from out of state. You just have to have a proxy. You have to have somebody in Nevada playing for you. It's totally legal. It's totally within Circa's thing. I think 75% of the entries are from out of state. So Survivor Sweat has the largest proxy service. They register and enter every week for the most number of entries per year. And we thought it was a good synergy between my league and their company, because people who like to play in my league like to do things like the Survivor contest. The other thing that they do is they have a marketplace for Survivor entries. So as people bust out of the Survivor, you have a theoretical EV of what your entry is worth. It starts out with $1,000 per entry, but as people bust out, there is a smaller pool of people that can win, so your equity goes up. Your equity might be, after the first week, might be worth $2,000. It might be worth $3,000 the next week, $5,000, $8,000, $20,000, $100,000, $500,000. $1 million, as it goes throughout the season, as people get eliminated and you survive. So that's life-changing money to a lot of us. And Survivor Sweat offers a way for you to buy and sell equity within the Survivor contest so that you can obtain some of the value you've achieved by making it further in the contest. We thought this was a great synergy. It's a great company to have on board. Now, what are they giving to be title sponsor? They have created 10 prize packs that we are going to be giving away to 10 winners in the ODB League. We are going to be having a separate leaderboard, separate from the ODB leaderboard, and that is going to be achieved like this. Every tournament at the World Series is going to have 1 point available for winning. Whatever player that was drafted lasts the longest or survives the longest is going to get 1 point. So if Scott Seaver finishes third in the 10K 08, but the first 2 people are people who weren't drafted, Well, Scott Seaver is going to get 1 point. If you have Scott Seaver on your team, you get 1 point. If Jesse Lonis is the longest lasting player in the 50K PLO, he's going to get 1 point. It doesn't matter if he won the bracelet or not. If he's the longest lasting drafted player, he gets 1 point. At the end of the year, and the end of the 99 events, whoever has the most points is going to finish first, and the top 10 players are going to get prize packs. You're going to pick your prize pack based on where you finish. So even though a lot of them are going to have similar values, you're going to get to pick what you like, because something you might not like. We're not going to necessarily just assign the prize pack. Prize packs are going to include Raiders tickets, Knights tickets, free entry into the Survivor contest, proxies, free Survivor Sweat dollars that you can use to buy equity in entries throughout the year, all different types of things. They're putting together nice prize packs worth, thousands and thousands of dollars, and that is free. If you enter the ODB League, you're going to be automatically entered. So I'm excited about this partnership and just having them involved.
Good. Just quickly, your format is a bit different than the 25K Fantasy because you get a bonus player, right?
Yes. So I wanted to be able to create more permutations of entries, because the 25K only has 20 entries, and mine has, it had 600 last year. I'm hoping to eclipse 700 or 800 this year. But even if it's 600, that's a lot less. I want to create more permutations. I also want to get a lot more people involved. The way for me to get involved, some of these players who maybe don't play the complete schedules, but are out there battling, especially in the no limit streets. I try to get a lot of my bonus players are no limit players who might not have enough value or might not be known enough to be drafted in the fantasy league, but they do have opportunities to get hundreds of points. Maybe some people who didn't quite make the cut this year as far as getting drafted, maybe people they slipped their mind. Last year, the top bonus player was a friend of ours, Sean Buchanan, from Canada. He kind of slipped through the cracks. He forgot to tell people he was playing, and out of sight, out of mind. He's not really always in the U.S. playing, so people just kind of forgot. So I put him on as a bonus player. Then you get guys like Dan Lowry. He's a circuit grinder who has 18, 19 rings, but doesn't really play a big enough schedule to kind of get drafted. But he's a hometown hero. He's the guy that a lot of guys on tour like to follow. And, I've basically going to try to get, upwards of 80 to 100 people on there this year. So if there's anybody out there who's going to be playing a schedule, somewhere between 50 and 150,000, and you don't think you're going to get drafted, just shoot me a DM or shoot me a message on Twitter. It doesn't even have to be a DM, and let me know, and I'll slide your name on there as a bonus player. And it's an exciting way to get more people involved. And Poker News has special labels for those guys so that you can kind of track the bonus players too. And it's kind of a fun way to involve more people.
Awesome. Looking forward to that. And the other thing to come out of the World Series is you're going to get involved with poker.org. Poker.org, of course, is the great content creator. They've got all kinds of stuff over there. Poker News and poker.org are both fantastic resources for the poker community to go get up to date on stories and different stuff that they're producing. You're getting involved with them this year at the World Series.
Yeah, so they came to me and they really wanted to be more involved in making content that surrounded my contest. They know that it's a big focal point of people during the World Series is my contest plus Daniel's contests and all the players that are participating. So they came to me and they said, look, we want to give this more coverage. What can we do to give it more coverage? So they're going to dedicate reporter directly to providing content, daily updates, on the scene updates as people are progressing in the tournaments. One of the big complaints that we've had is the field bonuses for these events. They don't really get reported on that well because they're kind of lost a lot of times. There's 100 people left in the no limit tournaments. A lot of times these tournaments break down pretty quickly from 300 to 100 where the bonus is, and that is a huge thing for the fantasy community, is who's getting that 100-point bonus. So they're going to be on the scene updating as we get down to the final 3 to 5 tables and the events. They're going to be there. They're going to have a dedicated blog. So they came to me and they asked me if they could do this. I said, absolutely. I'd love to help you guys with that. And they said, what if we ran a separate contest for the people who can't afford your $500 contest that is mirrored after your contest? I told them, well, only if they do it, in a very great professional way. They have something really great out there. So they've had their team on it for the last couple months, and they have announced that they're going to be having a contest, a free roll for all the people who sign up for poker.org. And they're going to be giving away prizes. I think on the docket right now is a 10K main event seat for first, either that or 10,000 in cash. I'm not sure what they ended up. Hopefully by the time this gets released, that will be out there. But that's a great way for you to get involved as voyeurs who don't want to participate in the $500 one, that you can have an opportunity. And even if you slap your entry into their contest as well and give yourself a chance to win a $10,000 main event seat this year. I'm also going to be doing weekly vlogs, kind of, just short videos, kind of talking about the fantasy, where they are, what players are doing well, what players aren't, what teams are really excelling in the 25K. And I'll be putting those out, and you'll be able to access those at Poker.org as well.
That's awesome. Mentioning the content that comes out of the World Series is great, because for those of us that aren't in Las Vegas for the entire summer, to watch Daniel's vlogs, to watch yours coming up, to watch all the different content creators that are on YouTube is exciting. Poker Go, of course, as well. So looking forward to waking up every morning and opening up the laptop and consuming as much poker content as I can. I'm loving all the stuff that's come out of the poker content creation world in the last year. I think we've come a long way, and I think it's growing the game and doing great things. As long as YouTube doesn't restrict some of the stuff. It seems like it's been an issue lately. Ross, you probably know more about that than I do. But it seems like there's some great stuff coming out, and I'm looking forward to this year for people who are going to pick it up this year as well. Roscoe, you getting some videos tagged?
Well, I mean, what I've been working on isn't exactly poker content, so we haven't had that problem. But I've heard issues and a little bit concerned about it going into the World Series.
Yeah. David, what kind of stuff do you watch? Are you
Me personally?
Yeah.
I'm more of an scroller. I mean, I'm just on there all the time. So if videos pop up, that's kind of what I look at. I don't really sit down and watch as many. I do try to check out Daniel's vlog, especially, when I might be in it, when there's an event that we're playing together. But I play a lot of poker. I play a lot of poker this summer. So I'm not one of those guys who sleeps in and late regs and, goes home early if I bust. If I bust, I register the night event. And if there's rebuys, I rebuy. And when I wake up in the morning, I eat something and I go and I register as soon as I can. I believe in early levels. I believe in being in there. If the young guys these days, honestly, they're kind of soft. I mean, I'll tell you, I'll call them out. I think they're kind of soft. You guys, you get in there and battle. I mean, my heroes are there every day. They're not complaining about being tired. They're there every day. They're getting there and they're playing the early levels and they're battling. And if they bust, they go and register the next one. That's something that I would suggest if you want to play this World Series grind and you haven't done it that often, is start staying up later, start getting up early, start training your body to work on less sleep. Take your breaks, take deep breaths and walk around. If you need to, do a quick lap around, the table while there's a long hand going on, do it, but be in there and learn how to play tired, learn how to play when you're not at your best. I just don't get this soft mentality of the younger generation of I need my beauty sleep and all that. It's, get in there and play tired and play hard. And I don't know. It's just how I grew up. I grew up tough in the poker world, and I had to battle for everything I had. So I like it when we play long hours. I like it when everybody's tired and they're weak. And if you want to get an edge on your opponents, then toughen up.
I love it. Good message for the kids. Yeah, just play. I mean, it's not brain surgery, right? I mean, we're not brain surgeons playing for or operating for 24 hours in a row. We're playing poker. You can fold and get up and go for a little walk around and take a little time out here and there. You get breaks. You can have some coffee, do whatever you need to do. I don't want to downplay.
I mean, I think that's part of the solver issue is everybody wants to play every street, solver approved, and they're constantly like in their brain trying to randomize this or randomize that. You know what? Just look at that guy and go, fuck that guy. I'm going to raise him, or fuck that guy. I'm not giving him chips. I'm just going to fold. Like, I don't know. That's kind of how I play poker, and it's worked for me. And I know the young guys are like, oh, well, you're over the hill, whatever. But I continue to post results year after year with the fuck this guy mentality. So if I could give anybody a little advice out there, it's, just look at that guy and go, fuck that guy. And just do what he doesn't want you to do, whether it's fold or 3-bet him or value bet him or whatever. I mean, I've lived my poker career with the fuck that guy mentality. So
that's awesome. I think we've just discovered our first merch T-shirt. It's going to be a big shirt that just says "fuck that guy."
Yeah, gamble up.
Gamble up. Yeah, exactly.
Gamble
awesome.
up. Fuck that guy.
Enjoy the Savage Invitational. Say hi to all the fellow degenerates out there. Enjoy the golf. I can't wait to see some of the videos and everything that's going to happen out there at Pinehurst. And then the World Series. So we'll try and do a show at the beginning of the World Series at some point when you've got a little window. We'll find a door or maybe a couple of days in to get an update on how everything's going, maybe on the Survivor draft or on the fantasy draft. And we'll get caught up, maybe in about 10 days from now. So have a good trip. And thanks, Roscoe, for getting together. And thanks to you out there for listening to the show. We'll talk to you soon.